and we're going to get into all that, but I really want to focus on talking about your backgrounds because both of you guys have such unique stories. And I feel like people see you guys everywhere and they know your names, but they don't know how you got here. So Monique, I'm going to start with you, and I just want to know, give us a little bit of your background and just tell us how you got to where you are.
So actually, once you hear the story, you'll realize that we have really similar backgrounds, because I started my career in the music industry, booking shows I was living in Miami. I grew up in Florida, went to school at Hampton for a year, and then transferred to University of Miami once my dad got sick. And once I got there, I was always really into the music industry, so my minor was music business and entertainment industries. And I started booking shows for the oldest blues and jazz club in San Francisco, and then moved onto the artist side and worked with Luther Campbell. And
Wait, kept me coming. I love it.
At that exact time, actually, yeah. And advanced his tour dates. And so got really deeply into the music industry. But at the same time, I had always been incredibly into technology. And so I had my first computer class when I was like 7. Started kind of teaching myself how to code a little bit. Got away from it, as many women in tech do, around high school, right? But then started to come back around in college, and started just building things and figuring out how to make those things make money. And I had no idea that at the time there was a place on the other side of the country where you would go for funding for whatever you were building, right? That was just not a part of my, knowledge set. I didn't know that. And so I was doing what entrepreneurs have always done, which is build something and then make it profitable.
Nice. Crazy. I mean, that's the step in the right direction.
What? Crazy thing. And then I got really good at that. They asked me to move onto the product side and build out product for marketing and affiliate programs. I did that for a while. And then a company in San Francisco knew me and knew what I was doing, and they wanted to talk about having me come out and build something. I had never been to San Francisco, wasn't really that interested in San Francisco. But I came out and talked to them for a day. They made me a job offer on my way back to Miami, and then I moved in the next 30 days.
Give it up for that, you guys.
And so I didn't have a reason to say no, so I said yes. And that was probably like the best move that I could have made, because it put me, where technology was happening and where people were building things and where investment was happening. And so, that kind of sparked everything. I worked for that company for a while, started Black Founders in 2011, built an app called Speak Chic, went into the mayor's office of civic innovation, working on civic tech and gov tech, came out of that and joined 500. So, and that's a really accelerated version so that Arlan can get to hers, because we'll be here all night talking about my old self. But yes, so that was kind of the path.
And Arlan?
Wow, yeah, I didn't know about the Luther situation or the music situation. I think that's a little bit of that is where it ends, though, our similarities, because you are a founder that I would want to invest in, that type of story. I think mine was more, I didn't go to college, spent a lot of time in the principal's office for disrupting. Now I get paid for that. Yes, thank you. So I grew up in Dallas and was always kind of working on things, always real broke. They call it, I would say broke is better than poor, so I was broke. And I did a few things. I started a music magazine in my 20s, and that was like best of times, worst of times, and it ended up failing, quote unquote, but it was a really good experience. And then I did a lot of like indie touring with musicians, and that was like in a van with, first it was like a Norwegian pop punk band, and we would just drive around and eat at the gas stations and make enough to get to the next city. I booked their tour, and then I tour managed them. I did that for a lot of singer-songwriters for a while, and then started the magazine. I started a blog called Your Daily Lesbian Moment, that was read by a lot of people, and that went well. And then I decided to get into touring. I wanted to go to the arena level. Like, it was really exciting to me to think about, working at a show that I, went to see. So I cold emailed 100 tour managers and production managers, and that would have been like 2011-ish. And I asked them if I could go on the road with them, and I got 20 responses, three in-person meetings, and 1 arena gig. And then I worked for a few years with different people. The first gig was with CeeLo before he lost his mind. You can quote me. No. And then Tony Braxton, Jason Derulo, a few other people. I got to do Coachella and stood next to Beyonce and Jay-Z and Harry Styles while Usher and Pharrell were on stage, and that was my life for a moment. And then I got really interested in startups, just curious about startups, and was not doing well financially, even though I was doing these really cool things. Wasn't making any money because you make the money for that week, and then you don't make the money for the rest. There's no union, there's no health insurance. So, but I was super curious about startups once I learned what that world was. I was in Houston at that point. Started reaching out to how you read everything and you watch all the videos. I started reaching out to everyone that I could get in touch with. I wrote the longest emails, and please don't do that. I wrote the longest life story emails in the world, and I'm still surprised that some of the people wrote me back. But that's just a little hint. Don't do that. Yeah. Make it so I don't have to scroll, or the person doesn't have to scroll.
Bullet points.
Yes.
Love that.
So then time went by. I started noticing there was a weird disparity between the money that went to straight white males versus everybody else. I said somebody should start a fund that only invests in everybody else, because women and people of color and LGBT people are some of the strongest, most resilient, and most resourceful people I know. And isn't that who you're looking for when you're looking for to invest in someone? So I had no money, zero money. I was negative, debt collectors and all. But I went door to door, figuratively and then literally. Came out here, and then over a few years built up a venture fund. So now Backstage has invested in 64 companies and 63 of them are led by women, people of color, or LGBT founders.
Props to that.
Yeah, thank you. And we're going towards 100, and we have a lot of things planned for the year.
Beautiful. I have a interesting question because I came from the music industry, so
we should start a band.
So I directed commercials and music videos, which then I transitioned into tech. So what's interesting to me is I'm curious from you guys, what do you feel like you learned from that industry that were the transferable skills to the technology space?
Yeah, I think it's one, identifying talent is one big skill, to figure out what's going to be a hit, what's going to be a good startup, and what's not. And then two, I think just being really resilient is a skill that a lot of us have, and trying, we don't have traditional finance backgrounds. We have, I was hustling this music career backgrounds, right? And I think Marlon also started in music. Obviously Troy did.
Right, yep.
But I think
Probably
Marlon also has like an early music career background
We're
too.
one away from a Jackson 5.
I know, right?
We gotta get this group going, y'all.
You can start Endeavor, CAA. So I think, it's not that we have these traditional backgrounds that naturally led us into venture capital. It's that we have these backgrounds where we know how to identify talent, and then we were able to transfer those skills over into technology. So I think that's where it all comes from.
I agree. And I think also being able to work with a lot of different types of people, personality types, and culture backgrounds, right? We can be in a room with people from all over the world or different backgrounds within the United States, and it isn't scary to us or foreign to us. And I think that's a huge an edge, to be able to talk to a lot of different types of people and kind of understand different agendas and egos and how that works. And there's a lot of psychology that goes into working with musicians, you kind of transfer that right over to Silicon Valley. There's a lot of ego. I'm trying not to make that me. And then also, I would say, maybe you agree with this, being having a lot of tolerance for risk.
Yeah.
Because you kind of, you kind of create your own destiny. You kind of, it's hard to work for someone else. And so, and taking on that and accepting that and saying that's what my life will be, it can translate everywhere. And venture, I mean, I just think by definition it should be a risky kind of endeavor. And I think it's buttoned up, actually. It's really buttoned up and conservative. And so that's why, I came in and I was just like, looked around and I said, why is everybody so, scared up in here? What, you start kicking things down and making a ruckus and, got stuff done.
So going back to both of your guys' stories, because of course, non-traditional in every way, shape, and form. How did you become partners at 500? I know you've taken a different route.
Yeah, I left. So I don't know if everybody. I guess everybody.
Oh, sorry.
No, right?
She's gone.
I left 500. My last day was last Tuesday. Is that right? Something like. I know. Sorry, it was like last Tuesday. Sorry, I've been doing a lot of like going to the spa in the middle of the day.
I believe that was right.
Wearing sweatpants at home. So
Monique is like, I am chilling. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. So I've left 500, and the next thing is on the horizon.
I'm so intrigued by that. Can you tell us anything about the next thing?
Because I'm on the spot.
We know it's going to be something interesting.
Yeah. You know it's going to be something big.
And
you're always going to be.
It'll still be in venture. I've already said that I'm staying in venture, but it'll be
because
something.
All boats rise with the tide. So if whatever you do, as long as it's positive, that's good for all of us.
And
but
I think the industry needs people like you and me. Mm-hmm. And so I think if I left 500 and said I'm not staying in venture, I think that would be that's a negative. Right? So it's a negative for founders, it's a negative for the industry as a whole. So
that's
I'm
a lot of responsibility.
Here.
Though, I don't know, we're gonna get Oprah on here, but that's a lot of responsibility. So if you wanted to, that should be your choice.
Right, for sure.
My choice and everybody's choice. But yes, there is that sort of keeping the torch going.
But I've definitely always looked at my career as like I'm a vessel for a lot of things.
And I'm a larger vessel. Got a lot.
No.
not that much larger.
But wait, going back to 500 though, because I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Like you got into one of the biggest accelerators in terms of being a partner, right? So what is that story?
You mean how did I end up there?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I started Black Founders in 2011. I was a founder also and was going to all of these events and demo days and not seeing any people of color, any Black people in the audience. And, we really started Black Founders because we wanted to see more successful Black entrepreneurs in tech. And so that led me into, I think I was invited to a 500 Startups demo day like around 2012. And so I kind of got into that world and started to know people on the team. I also was really good and still am really good friends with Deshaun Amira from Maven, Chris Bennett from Soldsy, now Wonder School. They're both 500 Startups portfolio companies. So I knew companies who were going into 500 and I was actively sort of sending people there. And so when I left the mayor's office of civic innovation and my fellowship was over, I knew that venture was going to be the next thing on my path. And I naturally just sort of went into 500 and I said, hey, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about doing some SPVs, some special purpose vehicles, or I'm thinking about, raising a fund or starting to invest. And they were like, oh, well, we should all talk about that. And so we started talking about that and, we liked each other and, that's how I ended up there.
Beautiful. And your story is super unique. So let's talk about how we got our LPs for your fund.
Say that one more time.
How did we get the LPs?
Oh, how did I get the
LP?
I was thinking about this today, about the literal elevator being sent back down for me. Because I was thinking about how you kicked the door in for me to be possible, right? And I was thinking about sending the elevator back down. Literally, this happened with one of the LPs, with Chris Saka. I had already been talking to him We have about 50 LPs in our funds. Chris Saka, Mark Andreessen, Brad Feld, Ellen Powell, et cetera, et cetera. So I had been talking to him and kind of, saying, you want to invest, you want to invest? And he was just like, why don't you just work at a fund? Like, it was real easy. I was like, yeah, okay. But
I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
Why?
yeah, I was like, oh, okay, what about yours? So he was speaking at, this would have been 2015. He was speaking at an Inc. Event. And, I mean, it was a big, big event, a lot of money put into it. And I went to it. And I was kind of standing in the back, and I was like, I have to figure out a way to talk. Because I talked to him online, but I got to figure out a way to go and talk to him. And there was a black woman who worked at the event space. Didn't know Chris Saka from Adam. Worked at the event space. And I kind of went up to her, and I said, I'm trying to see him. Do you know, like, his schedule after this or whatever? And she's like, he's going to be at the top floor and around the corner, but you can only go up there through this one elevator. And she goes like this. She goes, and she opens the elevator for me, and I just walk backwards into the elevator, and it slides closed. And by the time he finished his fireside, I was up there like, hey, Chris. And he was getting his makeup done to do a video thing for Inc. And I stood in the doorway for the 15 minutes he was getting his makeup because he couldn't move, he couldn't get up.
Right.
And I just pitched him, and he ended up being an investor.
Beautiful. The tenacity on that. Yes, clap that up.
That's one of them. 49 other stories, It was just one by one by one. It's slightly easier, but I have to say it's not easy yet. It will be. They'll see, but it's little by little by little.
Do you feel like each one is getting easier as you're going?
It's slightly because people know the story now, and they understand that I'm not just fly by night kind of weird. I mean, I am weird, but like just it's gonna go away fatty kind of thing. But it's still harder than it should be. It's harder than it should be for someone who started with 0 and has built it to 64 companies, has seen 3,000. It's harder than it should be. Yeah. And I'll say that all day. Wow. It's but I think I have hope, and I'm optimistic, and I'm not going anywhere. So hopefully we'll see something.
Yeah, well, we believe in both of you ladies, so.
Thank you.
So, talking about legacy, what do you all feel is your legacy that you want to leave?
I think my legacy is in the successful companies, right? It's not really about me. It's about the founders, and it's about the companies. It's about the Blavities, and it's about the Rojos, and it's about all these companies that I've been able to invest in, and seeing them be successful is my success. I mean, literally, from that is your track record as a investor, but it's also putting points on the board and showing people that yes, these are good investments, that you probably should have taken their call when they called you the first time, and that these founders can go on to not just have a successful exit, but also go back to reinvest in new founders who are going to come behind them. And so I think that's really important. And yeah, I think that's my legacy. And I'm playing the biggest game I can. I think my time at 500 was incredible, loved it, but there's a big door for me out there to open. And so that's where it's all going.
It's all about me. No, I was just like, how am I going to follow that? I think two things. One is similar is if my nieces and nephews who are little can one day soon have a poster of Sequoia, have a poster of Jessica Matthews, of Don Dixon, of Jewel Burks, a poster of them alongside the Rihannas and the Serena Williams and then I will feel like I have done something. I've been a part of that because the representation that I set out to be part of has worked. And I think that that's what we can achieve there. And the second thing I think is in remaining authentic to myself and leading by that example. I'm me for better or for worse, in a situation, in any situation, I'm me, so that knowing that that is enough for me, and hopefully setting that example for other people, because you don't have to mold yourself into what other people want you, or you think they want you or need you to be, because you have to live with yourself. And so if I can kind of keep people thinking about that, and also self-care, I try to do that, hashtag self-care.
Huge.
Yes, please take care of yourself, because you're the only one who really can, at the end of the day, take the best care of you. And I say that to myself all the time. It is hard to do that. You have so many responsibilities. Everybody here does, but you can't get to the level that you want to get to if you are running on 50%. You just can't. So that's really important.
Beautiful. For the people in the audience who haven't really figured out how to understand how to formulate that, what advice would you give them in terms of getting to that point of figuring out what their legacy, how to get there?
Yeah, I think it's really tapping into what's important to you, and that's going to change from, what was important to me 5 years ago is different from what's important to me today, because 5 years ago I was sort of in this like founder mode, and that shifted into an investor mode. And so being okay with that shift is really important, because you don't have to care about the same thing you cared about 20 minutes ago. Like, if you care about something new now, that's perfectly fine. Just be real with yourself about what it is, and be real with yourself about how you're going to put that out into the world. And just try to treat people the way you would like to be treated. Whether it's answering an email that is way too long, or
Don't do it.
I mean, some of these emails are very struggle.
Four and 7 years ago.
Or just taking a minute, like in public, to actually speak to someone and connect with them and listen to what their startup is, whether it's something you're interested in that much or not, or just give them the gift of a quick no. Sometimes that is a gift. So
No is a complete sentence.
no is a complete sentence, and sometimes it's a gift, especially when it comes quickly. And so being able to make sure that you are being true to yourself and authentic to yourself and what you want to see in this world, that's how you identify what the legacy is.
Yeah, and forming it. I think if you think about it, go on a retreat. And a retreat doesn't have to be away from your house. Even that's probably the definition of it, but it doesn't have to be. But go
An internal retreat.
close the door, lock the door. Go on a mental retreat and think about and be unapologetic about what you need and what you want, and dream as big as you can. Write it down. No one else has to see that, and that's a good way to start formulating. What's the word? Formulating. Thank you, Chacho. Appreciate you. And I'm getting old. I forgot a second. Oh, I feel like I'm on the porch right now. What
Frankie,
was I gonna say?
I was just watching Frankie and Grace.
Grace and I love them so much.
Frankie and Grace right
Ooh,
now.
we should do a whole panel on that. Just talking about that. We should do like a little video series where we just talk about Grace and Frankie episodes. So the world wouldn't be ready for that.
So good.
I can't think of the second. It's all good. It was probably something along the same line.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, we will definitely end there.
I know what I was going to say.
Go ahead, I got you.
Okay. Anyone who is a white, straight male listening, now video streaming in the future, Monique and I can't do this alone. We
Allies.
Thank you.
Yes.
We can't. Every time I get an email, every other email, have you talked to Monique and Art? Monique and Art. We can't do it alone. There is a lot of impressive, innovative, magical stuff going on with people that you may not be in your network. Right. We can tell you where to find them. Come to us, please. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Please give these ladies an amazing, amazing round of applause. Thank you so much.